What is happening, Facebook? Today is law number 19, the law of timing. We're sending out a couple quick invites here real soon. Get the program rolling. How is everyone? James Johnson, Jim. Facebook gives you all kinds of people to invite right off the bat. Thank you, Facebook, for this. What would I do without my friends? Appreciating that. Denise, how are you? Bess, how are you? Hello, hello. Lucy, how are you? And add. All right, guys, Thursday. Everybody have their pen and their piece of paper ready. Dull pencil's better than a sharp mind, right?
Morning, everybody. How are you?
Or afternoon on the Eastern Standard Time. Charlie's with us.
Oh, yeah. Good afternoon. Good afternoon to you, Jeff,
Angela's
and to Eastern
here.
people.
Welcome.
So, law of timing today, number 19 of the 21 laws, law of timing. And Charlie said, it's time for me to get back on the screen, on the silver screen. So we are here.
Right.
Welcome. We are Jeffrey David Gamble of My Leadership Network and also certified John Maxwell trainer, and Bess McCarty of MLM Millionaire Club. And we partner to bring you these MLM Lunchtime leadership shows. And even though there's a lot of people on here that are just here to learn leadership, not necessarily in network marketing, because this applies to their life, their parenting, their jobs, their work that they've chosen to do. So we welcome you. Our purpose, to help people grow, to equip, educate, and empower entrepreneurs and create independent servant leaders. So recommend that if you're like me, you get your paper and pen ready and be ready to catch some really cool notes, because I guarantee if you pay attention, you will walk away with some gems today to make you a better person, better network marketer, and all those things. Right, Jeff?
That is correct. That is the key thing here, is learning these principles, making it happen. I just hit it doesn't like me right now. I don't know.
And a better dog, too.
Yes. Okay, so here we go. Let's get into this. The only right action at the right time will bring success inside a business. For some reason, my camera just decided to sit sideways here, so I'm going to readjust. There we go. So the law of timing, learning the law of timing. When to lead is as important as what to do and where to go. You find this true, in sports. You find this true in music. You find this true in dance. So often it's so true inside of business. Timing is often the difference between success and failure in almost any endeavor. Living the law of timing. It says every time a leader makes a move, there are only 4 outcomes. So these are the 4 outcomes that happen. Number 1, the wrong action at the wrong time leads to disaster. So the wrong action at the wrong time leads to disaster. And we've all seen this, waiting till the last minute. If you wait till the last minute to get everything done. I was in real estate for years, still have a real estate brokerage, mainly focus on investing. And I can tell you, timing has everything to do with that business too. We used to say time is your enemy inside of the loan business, inside of real estate. Time is your enemy. The longer it takes for something to happen, the more problems that can arise. So you just want to complete things at the right time in the right order. Number 2, the right action at the wrong time brings resistance. Trying to get somebody to do something. I'll give you this is funny. When we were in real estate, one of the things we constantly had to do is we had to fax over paperwork to title companies and to lenders. And what I realized is obviously if you try to fax something over at the end of the day, trying to get something done for the next day, it's just, you have to call in the morning to verify they got it. Then they have to figure it out. Then I realized that timing was bad there. So what I did is I would fax it over in the middle of the day, and then I would call over, and this was funny because one of the guys in the office heard me say this. I said, hey, I said, I'm calling from XYZ, and I said, I'm not, it has nothing to do with specifically a file, but we faxed something over, and our fax machine has been like doing weird stuff. It hasn't been going through. It says it's going through, and it's not going through. Can you do me a huge favor? Can you just tell me if your fax machine is working? And she's like, well, I think it's working. Can you send something over? And then I would send them the paperwork that we needed for the next day. And I was like, did you get that? And she's like, yeah, we got it. I was like, well, that actually is on a file that's coming up. You know, if we can get that over. Oh, yeah, so you can verify you got it. Oh, yeah, we got it. My friend thought that was hysterical. And then the next day, of course, we were like, no, you got it in the middle of the day. We verified it. Just a little, lending idea. Proper timing requires understanding, maturity, confidence, decisiveness, experience, and then preparation. You have to kind of know. That's just one of the things. Once you see a transaction go through, you kind of know the timing of what happens. What I find is most people inside of direct sales don't know. The biggest thing is not knowing. The biggest thing is not that they don't know when to close. It's they don't know when to shut up. They just keep talking. They keep telling people about all the great stuff and all the great stuff and all the great stuff and all the great stuff. And they just won't stop talking. I'm like, you had them done 15 minutes ago. Now what you've done is you've overcooked them for 15 minutes and they're done. You've sucked the life out of them. You've killed them with information. Now they know so much that they couldn't make a decision even if they wanted to. Number 3, the wrong action at the right time is a mistake. I say this, this one's an easy example. When do you go contact somebody? There is a right time to contact somebody. And let me just give you this. So I watch this happen a lot with network marketers. They'll come right out of a conference, right out of a meeting, and they're jacked and they're excited. And they've got the look in their eye like they're going to go out and do something. And then we'll go to a restaurant. And rather than saying, hello, how are you? How was your day? How long have you worked here? And using form or forward to kind of get to know the waiter or waitress, they'll sit down and right away, they'll go after them. Oh my gosh, I'm involved in this amazing business and your job probably sucks and you should get out of here because I'm sure you've been working. Oh, that's going to help. This person's going to go back in the kitchen and talk about, to the chef about my food. Would you please stop talking to them? Because they're going to handle my food. And, the food to me is pretty important, especially after an event. Typically, if you're one of the speakers or leaders, you don't get to eat before, you don't get to eat after. There's 3 things if you're a leader you don't get. One of them's food, one of them's sleep. I'll let you figure out the last one. So the wrong action at the right time is a mistake. But people go in and they right away they just start trying to sell this person. And I'm like, guys, there was a right time to do this. And I watched this happen at a restaurant. We did a huge event. Anthony Manai is with us. What's happening, sir? So we did this huge event. Actually, I think Anthony was at that event on the south side of Indianapolis. I just remember because there was a tornado warning, and then we went outside a couple times to see what was going on, which isn't the smartest thing. But after the event, we went over to Denny's. And at Denny's, I watched an entire group of people that I just said, don't do this right as you walk in the door. You know what they did? They all were like, hey, guess what? I'm involved in this great opportunity. And, some people had DVDs and magazines. They just slapped them at, slapped the waiter and the waitress with all this information and blah, 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 blah. And then what's worse is the one guy that I kind of picked out. Now, I say I picked out because I look for certain things in people. I look for their posture. I look for their demeanor. I look for how they keep themselves. And there was this guy that happened to be managing, and he's managing a Denny's. And get this, not only managing a Denny's, but he's managing it late at night. This was like an after event. So this is 10, 11 o'clock at night. And we go up to the counter, and this guy's built. I mean, you can tell when somebody works out on a regular basis, and not just because they have big shoulders, but you can tell it in their physique and how they stand, their shoulder width. I could tell the guy worked out. I could also tell everything was immaculate, haircut, immaculate. His shirt and everything was pressed. I mean, and if you normally see a Denny's, a Perkins, you know, manager late at night. They are, I mean, completely worn out. They, you know, not only is their shirt not pressed, it's probably not washed. I'm just, you know, I'm just saying the restaurant business is tough. I'm not saying you should do that. I'm just saying it's a tough business. And I look down and he's wearing a Rolex. So that was a good tip that this guy doesn't belong here. And not one of my people asked him a single question. So I get to the counter, I'm like, hey, it's kind of a rough night. And he's like, yeah, we got hammered. And I tell he kind of has an accent. I said, you have an accent. Where are you from? He's like, originally? I'm like, yeah. He said, you know, originally I'm from New York. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. What are you doing out here? He's like, living the dream or something. I mean, he made a very sarcastic comment, which is very New York. And I'm like, yeah, I can kind of see that. And I said, well, why Denny's? You know, this is kind of odd, right? And he's like, well, I actually moved out here to start a jewelry store. And I said, oh, fantastic. I said, I'm actually a fan of watches and things like that. I was kind of admiring your Rolex. And he kind of says, oh, you noticed? I'm like, yeah, I noticed. He's like, I said, that's, you know, that's a rare, I thought it was a Daytona. And he kind of corrected me and says, well, actually, it's this particular one. And I was like, oh, okay, that, which was actually more expensive. And I said, right on. You know, we took a look at the watch and then started having a conversation. And what I found out is he had moved to Indiana. He had started a jewelry shop. And because they were doing construction downtown, they dropped a I-beam on his business and it went right through the ceiling, right through the floor. And the insurance wasn't going to care for it. The insurance wasn't going to take care of it because it wasn't natural disaster, weather related, and the city necessarily. So he was in the process of actually suing the city. And I ended up getting his information and his number and everything. And people are like, wow, how did you do that? I'm like, timing. If I would have said something the minute we walked in, it wouldn't have worked. But I complimented the people who waited on us because it was crazy and they actually got to us. Guys, here's kind of a trick. If you're ever in a restaurant, the number one thing the manager deals with is complaints. Just people bitching and whining and crying and, you know, making a mess. And, you know, you got kids terrorizing people and you have adults terrorizing people and, you know, where's my fork? You know, I didn't get a fork. And, you know, the food was cold and, you know, there was a hair in it and there was a bug in it and just on and on and on. And I'm not making fun of Denny's. I'm just saying this happens in every restaurant all the time. If you want to completely change the mood of a restaurant, ask for the manager midway through your meal. Now, first of all, it's going to freak out the waiter or waitress, and make sure it's not during the busiest time. Don't do this during the busiest time. I always go in, like if I go in for lunch, I go in at like 2 o'clock. And here's why I go in at 2 o'clock, because by that point, the chefs are completely relaxed. They're relaxed. They're cool. They're making food kind of as they want. I always end up getting more food, you know, more of like what I like. I was like, oh yeah, I really like spinach. Oh, and I really like pineapple. And they're like, don't worry. I mean, I got like an entire pineapple one time because, you know, that I just kind of complimented them on how they've always been good with service. They've always, you know, it's always been awesome. Always do it mid-afternoon. Ask for the manager. The manager comes out and I said, hey, I just wanted to say, I come here a lot and the service here is always so good and we just appreciate it. And the food is always good. Like I've never had an issue with it. Now, don't do that if they've messed up your order. You know, you can't do this and then they mess up your order. But I've gotten free food at some, I'm not even going to tell you the names of the restaurants because then everybody's going to try to go there and get free food. But I've gotten free food at major, huge franchises. And I'm not talking about like coffee. I'm talking about the whole meal. They've comped for like multiple people. I think there was 3 of us one time. And, you know, I did this as an example to show somebody because they were going to try to meet somebody. Okay. So they were going to try to, this is a good rule, not only of timing, but of location. If you're going to build the business, you want to bring people to where there's successful people. You don't want to take somebody who's successful to a place where everybody makes $6 an hour or $7 an hour. So it just so happened that, you know, there was a friend of mine and I took her to a specific place to meet because she was going to talk to this successful friend of hers that owned a restaurant and a business. And we went to a pretty nice place and the person couldn't come out. So I said, I want to give you an example of what happens. I called the manager. We did this and we all ate. And her biggest concern was it was going to cost so much. Here's what's funny. What she ordered when we finally looked at pricing, what she ordered was actually less money Then, and it was better food because she's like, oh, I always get this tenderloin and blah, 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 blah. That was like $10. She's like, and I don't have $25 to eat at the nice restaurant. She ended up getting this really cool salad and along with something else. And it was like $10, you know, right on the spot, or it was like $1 less. She goes, oh my gosh, I can't believe that I'm spending less here than I would there. And I'm like, look at the atmosphere, look at the people around you. You know, are they dressed well? She's like, yeah, everybody's dressed really nice. I said, look at the cars in the parking lot. Do they look like they recently got broken into, or they were picked up from the impound, or do they look like right off the lot? She's like, oh my gosh, they're right off the lot. I'm like, look at the atmosphere, how people greet you. You know, does it look like Gollum from Lord of the Rings came out of the back of the kitchen, you know, to serve you? Or does, you know, the person have, you know, I mean, I'm just saying, you know, sometimes you go to restaurants and, you know, you're lucky if you can get a full set of 32. That's teeth, by the way. Some people don't even know what I'm talking about. So this is my point, is you want to go to places that, you know, what did my friend say? It has to match what you're doing. Has to match what you're doing. You know, people are like, well, I only meet people where it's close to me. You know, close proximity doesn't help your business. You know, you don't see huge developers meet where it's close. They meet where it's popular. They meet where the people match. You know, what happens is you end up going to where you're used to. And what happens is your prospect sees that you're a $7 an hour person, an $8 an hour person. You're telling on yourself. You're not doing any good to what you're doing. So, you know, some people are never explained this inside of direct sales. It may be the first time you're hearing this and you're like, oh my gosh, you know, what have I been doing? Don't hate on yourself too much. I did this for a long time before somebody pointed it out to me. I finally realized that the people who were really successful always were meeting at this one place. And I was like, why do you guys meet there? Isn't that expensive? And this, that, and the other thing. And finally somebody took me aside and said, the location and the timing have so much to do with recruiting those kind of people. And I was like, oh, imagine that. That's why so much business gets done on a golf course. I hated golf. It's not a love of me. It's not a love of mine because here's the thing. I'm not really good at it. But when I found that out, I went and bought a set of golf clubs, and I was like, I can learn to get good for, you know, 6 figures a week. I mean, I can learn anything. So number 3 was the wrong action at the right time, make a mistake. Number 4, the end result of that entire meeting at the super nice place with my friend is they ended up comping our entire meal, and we got it for free. She's like, this is not possible. And I'm like, so here's the thing. Whatever money you were going to give for your meal, give to the waitress. I said, if that waitress gets that, the next time you come in, that waitress will kick somebody out of their seat for you. And it's actually true. That's kind of happened to me before. Okay, so number 4 is the right action at the right time results in success. The right action at the right time. How do you know it's the right action? There's a couple things that'll give this away. It works. It doesn't seem like work. It's not as hard. Just the whole process seems to click. You'll notice that there's no resistance. It just sort of happens. That's when you know you're completely on track. And with that, what I want to do is I'm going to take a break because we went over, you know, every time there's a leader makes a move, there are 4 outcomes. That's the 4 outcomes. What I want to do is take a break real quick, and I'm going to turn this over to Bess real quick to get her insights on the law of timing. And then we have a whole nother page of stuff to go over. So with that, Bess.
Cool. Thank you, Jeff, for this really, really awesome stuff. And I feel like you and me coming together, it was so natural and seamless. And and I'm loving the timing in my life. I'm just realizing today that the timing for me to build these classes and get this information out to people like we're doing is so perfect. I don't have any, you know, a child who needs me or even grandchildren yet, or an aging parent who needs me, and meeting you and developing our relationship and sort of discovering our mission. I feel like that's an incredible gift, and the timing, like you said, seamless. So how do we apply this all to network marketing? There's a bunch of places where timing can apply, like the right time to approach a prospect. Like Jeff said, know the restaurant's rhythm. You know, 2 p.m. is perfect. 2 to 4 p.m. 4 p.m. they're starting to gear up for dinner and all that. And so that's a perfect timing. And he mentioned the timing after. You warm up the person, you know, get to know them, develop a little relationship with the FORM or D, FORD. And another place where you can see the timing is for a prospect. Say you have a relationship with somebody and they have to be at high noon to be ready. So where is their timing for their readiness? Is it now? And if they say, no, it's not the timing for me now, I'm busy with this or that, or like I mentioned, you know, I've got to take care of an aging parent or child or grandchildren or something like that in my life, well, maybe that will come around. Maybe there will be a time when they are free of those responsibilities, or when they become dissatisfied with their job. And that might be a month from now. It might be 10, 20 years from now. That's why we stay in touch with people and watch out for the right timing. They have to be ready and hungry, as Les Brown says. They have to be hungry. So where is their high noon? They might be at 1 o'clock right now and they have to wait till the clock comes around to that readiness. So be there for them and stay in touch with them. Another tip about timing is even the time of day. If you're talking with people anywhere in the world, check their time zone before you call them or message them or set an appointment. See what's the best time zone so you can make your calls. For example, in the evenings or weekends when people are there, what time zone are you calling and what's the best time to reach them so that they're not at work? So they're not putting their kids to bed. Like 8 to 9 p.m. is a bad time for parents in their own time zone. And check their Facebook page, folks, before you contact somebody. There was a longtime friend that I wanted to let know about our classes, but before I did, I checked his Facebook page. I found out that his father had just passed away. Not a good time. Not a good time. So instead, I got to send him a supportive message. You know, I've been through this myself, and you know, love to you and support. So see what season they're in, what's happening in their life. Always check people out. And yeah, it takes time, but it's really worth it. Because just think how awful it's felt. You know, if somebody contacted you about something and you're completely opposite, clear across the world from what's going on in your life right now, or something real big, or you know, someone maybe the biggest thing is someone just passed away. That takes sometimes a long time to deal with, depending on the person. So be supportive, empathy of that. Another thing is tune into your intuition. I have experienced sometimes, Jeff has called me like the exact moment when I was free. I just completed a call and he calls, or I need something, or I had a big question, you know, it was bothering me, he calls. Like, I think that maybe when we pick up, when we allow ourselves to tune in to that person or their needs, that you might call it just the perfect time. Like the other day, somebody said, funny you should ask. I said, what's happening for you now? Funny you should ask. I'm just launching this new business. We've just moved and all this stuff. So it's the perfect time to support her in her new work. And let's look at time of the day. You know, we talk about time of the day and time zones, so it's the best time to call people, but there's also time of the seasons, right? Some people think that they rule out calling people in the summer because they're busy, they're on vacations. Well, I think summer is a very good time to encourage your team to prospect because they're traveling and they're meeting new people. That's so awesome. It's perfect time for them to prospect, not to, okay, I better leave my team alone and not talk to them about prospecting because it's summer, they're busy, and nobody wants to be called in the summer. It's not so. Another time is holidays. People back off. Oh, I don't want to, you know, bother people on the holidays. Well, that's exactly when people are looking for gift ideas. So another really good time of the year is New Year's, when people are starting new things, new health, new diet. It's a perfect time to start a new business. And another really good time is fall, when the kids go back to school and people are kind of settled down again. So I'll turn it back over to Jeff and I'll share a few more ideas.
Okay, so Winston Churchill said, described it in this way: there comes a special moment in everyone's life, a moment for which a person was born. That special opportunity, when he or she seizes it, will fulfill his or her mission, a mission for which he or she is uniquely qualified. And in that moment, they find greatness. it is their finest hour. Winston Churchill has a lot of great speeches, but, you know, when he talks about that kind of timing, you know, the timing of, you know, giving a speech when they were being bombed in World War II, and he says, you know, we're never giving up. It's just timing to bring people together. You know, hopefully you never have to go through that sort of a situation and have to have that kind of precise timing, or those perfect words. Sometimes I'm not as skilled. I read some stuff and I'm like, man, these people have read, you know, it sounds like poetry coming out of their mouth. And I'm like, I'm just trying to get the job done. I sound more like, you know, a rough coach, you know, at the 2-minute deadline of a game. This is what we call being at the right place at the right time with the right awareness. The right place at the right time with the right awareness, just knowing when to have that conversation, when to contact somebody, when to present to them, and when to try to close. You know, I said this many times throughout this series, but for those who are on right now, the two hardest times to close somebody are when they just got a job and when they just lost a job. Those are the two hardest times to close somebody. You would think when somebody just got a job, it would make sense to be like, hey, but here's the thing, they're out of their comfort zone. They don't know their area. They don't know their people. They're trying to make a bunch of decisions in their head. Now, they don't even know they're trying to make a bunch of decisions in their head, but they're trying to make a bunch of decisions. They're trying to get back into the groove. Now, somebody who just lost a job is frantic, dismantled. They're not focusing on a business. They're not, you know, most people are like, oh my gosh, how am I going to eat? You know, how am I going to pay bills next week? Just depending on what their financial situation is. But the two hardest times to sponsor somebody, the two hardest times to recruit somebody who just lost a job, somebody who just got a job. Also, you always try to close towards the end of the week. Why? Because payday's coming. So, you know, again, in timing, you know, the right place at the right time with the right awareness is I make an excuse for them. I do not let them give me an excuse. If you're waiting for the person to go, well, I don't get paid till Friday, nobody wants to tell you they're broke. Nobody wants to tell you, hey, I don't have any money on me right now. They won't say it. So what they will do is they'll make another excuse. Oh, you know, time's really not good for me. You know, I've had this backache, this earache, this headache, this, you know, the sun isn't in proper alignment. You're like, what does that have to do? I mean, they'll just come up with something because they don't want to tell you. So what I do is I actually build in, hi, Jessica. What I do is I build in the excuse for them. I say, well, you know, I know everybody gets paid on a different week at different times. Is now a good time to get started, or would it be better on a, you know, on a Friday, on the Friday you get paid? By the way, what, you know, what pay cycle are you on? And then people are like, oh my gosh, I don't get paid till next Friday. That works great. Perfect. Let's get you started. Then we can fill out the paperwork now. So this law is easy to see in sports. It's really easy to see in sports. This timing issue about when to pass, when to jump, when to stop, when to block, when to tackle. It's so easy to see that timing, just a fraction of a second, you know, you can be there or not be there. In soccer, it's like that a lot. You know, somebody will flinch and the person will go to dive and boom, the goal goes in. I mean, it's just a fraction of a second. You see people do this a lot in turning directions, you know. I watched a great video recently of the fastest guy inside of rugby. And it's just a fraction of a second where he'll kind of go to step and the person will lean. And as soon as he sees their balance go, he goes the opposite direction. And this guy is so fast. If you give him one step, he's gone. Nobody can catch him. It's actually kind of an amazing video to watch because you just watch him break away from people left and right. In business, when to buy, when to sell, when to grow, when to hold, when to bid, when to decline. Watch this. When to invest, when to market. You don't market when everything's going horrible. You want to market as soon as things start to slow down. You want to market your, you know what, off. You want to get things going. You want to make movement, because momentum, you know, starts with, you know, movement. You got to get the movement going. So in business, it makes sense. In horticulture, you know, when is the time to plant? When is the time to water? When is the time to, you know, we went over the Chinese bamboo tree and how it takes 5 years for the Chinese bamboo tree to grow, because it takes 5 years for it to dig the roots down deep enough for that tree to be able to grow in 6 weeks, 90 feet tall. Monica's with us. What's happening? So in horticulture, it makes sense. In relationships, when to meet, when to greet, when to say, hey, when should I tell this person that I love them? You know, the first 15 seconds of talking to them, probably too fast. You know, and I've seen this with people. They'll meet somebody and be like, we're getting married. I'm like, probably too quick. You know, it was a conversation to have, but not the first 5 seconds of meeting somebody. but I've watched that happen, and it usually doesn't work out if timing's off. Give that person time, applaud relationships. If they just broke up, you have to give them time to kind of heal and get back to where they need to be. If things went bad, you got to give this person some time. Timing matters. In leadership, it's when to hire, when to fire, when to promote, when to change things around, when to advertise, when to slow down, when to empower people. All of that has to do with timing, when to do it. You can't be just go, 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 go. I mean, you can, but you have to realize when you're training people and we're trying to bring new people, because direct sales is a lot about new people, especially with new people, you have to know the 4 personalities. Who's going to want a challenge? Who's going to want the inspiration? Who's going to want support? Who's going to want all the details? How fast can you close those 4 personalities has a lot to do with timing, knowing how and when, and knowing their personality. So leading others to the law of timing is reading a situation and knowing what to do are not enough to make sure you succeed in leadership. It says if you want your organization, department, or team to follow, you must pay it forward and pay attention to timing and also their personalities. When to get them to buy into something, when to get them to run for something. It's a good idea to inform everybody, hey, we're looking at doing this, we're looking at doing this, we're looking at doing this. Then you want to bring it up at a big event when emotions are high and commitment's high. And then you ask for the commitment at the absolute peak of when people are like ready to go. And then you can take off. So that is the lesson for today of the law of timing. Just some final thoughts before I turn it back over to Bess here. He says, review all your actions. Review all your actions about when you decided to do stuff and see where you're at. He said, spend some time analyzing. Anything that's failed recently, does it have to do with timing? If you prepare and engage in plans, list all the factors that could come up. I'll tell you something about timing is deciding to make a 90-day run. If you decide to make a 90-day run on Thanksgiving, you can do it, but you have to factor in that most people in December take half the month off. You have to factor in that in January, it takes people about 2 weeks to kind of get back in their comfort zone and adjust back to the fact that work is, sometimes their work is terrible and they don't want to be there, but it'll take 2 weeks because they've been off for a while with family and with other problems, with other headaches, and it takes a little while for them to get back on track. So it says, teaching the statements of the law of timing. My organization is always kind of not ready right away. It takes my followers a long time to warm up to an idea. Well, that's because of timing and not knowing their personality and trying to figure it out. And you're trying to get them to do too much too fast. My team always complains that they, get used to the idea and the program and the initiative, and then all of a sudden we're off to doing something else. So again, timing. So with that, I'm going to turn this back over to Bess to get her closing thoughts on the law of timing.
Hi, I meant to say earlier, if you're still on, hi Dakota, Lucy, Denise, Joyce, Fernando, Lou, Nancy, Anthony, Julie, Marty, Jesse, Thomas, and Monica. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you're watching the replay, please type replay. Also love to know where you're watching from. And if you found this of value, we'd love if you shared it with people, because we want to help as many people as we can, of course. So thank you, Julie, for your takeaway. She says timing is critical. This is what she's taking away, I guess, if you care enough to find out if they're coming in or out of a job, or if they've lost somebody or something like that. Thank you. I'd love to hear everybody's takeaways. What's the one thing that you got that meant the most to you today? Also, any questions that you have about this or about network marketing, we can cover that. And any insights, because I love to hear your thoughts. Have you guys had an experience about the right timing, how cool that was, or how horrible it was? Maybe I'm trying to think if I can come up with something, a funny experience. But yeah, Monica, this was one thing I needed, but I'm still presenting. We all can get better at timing too. Here's a Zig Ziglar tip about timing. Jeff said, when do you tell somebody you love them? Well, Zig says, when's the best time to tell your wife that you love her? Before somebody else does. So people that we know, the best time telling we love them is right now, right now. So, man, I love all these tips. Another good time, I think, to realize that people do have some money is right after an income tax return. So that might be a good time to call people and say, hey, you ready to start a business right now? Because they have this money. Maybe they have the starter kit money at that point. So what else? New intuition. If anyone would like to be on my text list for this, right before every show, I text a group of people that have asked me to. So if you'd like to, just private message me and I'll help you to get on here. Some people don't want to miss a show, or they really like that. And if you want to see an easy place to connect with the show, see the replays, get the free book, get community support, is on our Facebook group, MLM Lunchtime Leadership Show. Just go there, and if you're not a member, request to be a member, and we can get you on and connected here. And timing. Anything else? Anything else, Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, Julie talked about, she's talking about birthdays and spring breaks, and that's really, really important when you're building a business is, timing.
Mm-hmm.
You don't try to build on someone's birthday. Like, that's kind of weird. People try to do all this weird kind of stuff, and I would just advise against kind of throwing some weird stuff out there in the mix of, building. The wrong time of day. We talked about that, trying to present and close somebody after they've worked 17 and a half hours. Sometimes that works out, sometimes it doesn't. Don't try to host a party during spring break for network marketing. At least, that's usually not the best time to be able to do stuff, but I'm not saying don't go present. Trying to mix things. Some people try to throw a birthday party, and they'll try to be like, and we're going to do a presentation, or we're going to do a weekend barbecue, and we're going to do this. And it overlaps. It's not the right time. Make business, make fun time. So that way your people know you have an objective that's a sole focus, not kind of a mixed message in the middle. So law of timing. I hope you guys got a lot out of this. What was your biggest takeaway? That's what you want to be asking yourself. That's what you want to be putting down in your notes. That's what you want to share with us, is what is your biggest takeaway from this? And what is your biggest takeaway really from the whole series that you've listened to? What I got the very first time I read this book was there was a lot I needed to know. There was a lot I didn't understand. There were a lot of lessons that I needed to perfect here before things were really going to take off. Because I realized one of the laws is I don't get what I want, I get who I am. And who I was is I only had 3 of these laws that I was doing really well. The other ones I didn't know existed. So again, we love everybody. If you can like, share, or comment, send this to somebody you know. You can find us again on MLM Lunchtime Leadership Show, MLM Lunchtime Leadership Show. Ask to be part of that group. You can put on there, ask questions, hang out. We're going to share with you other leadership tips, quotes of the day and things like that we're getting from this particular message. They're really cool. Those are what I would suggest actually putting on your Facebook page, because those are going to attract. I found that the quotes and the inspiration attract more people to what you're doing than anything else you can do, being positive. So with that, I have a woman who wants to connect with Bible study. Okay, so that would be something. Athena's on. How you doing? So that is the lesson of today. I'm going to turn this back over to Bess for some closing thoughts.
We have a question. I want to thank Julie for her insights. Benny, I'm glad you made it on. Monica, it's cool that you could sneak out of the doctor's lobby to watch this. And Julie sort of has a question here. I have a woman who wants to connect with Bible study at church or in our homes, but I was wondering if that is good timing or not. Bible study. Oh, I'd make the appointment afterward, of course, not to interfere there, but say, hey, she wants to connect with you, I guess, if I'm understanding right. So I would say, great, I would love to share with you what I'm doing. And when is a good time? So you just validate that person right there, but then set a time aside from that. Right, Jeff? Any thoughts?
Yep. Never mixed use is what I say. So with that, guys, we appreciate everybody for being on. Again, noon tomorrow. What we're going to do is we're going to do Law 20. I just looked at the calendar. We're going to do Law 20. Monday, we will do Law 21. And then the 31st, we're going to do a recap and tell you about what's coming up next. So we appreciate everybody for being on. And we will talk to you tomorrow at noon. Thank you so much.
Law of explosive growth tomorrow.
It's going to be good.
Ooh.